Welcome to the Cannabis Economy by EgoMonk. After exploring the potential of cannabis as a textile competitor in the first episode and knowing about the various marketing channels of hemp products in India in the second episode, today we are joined by Yash Kotak and Jahan Jamas of the Bombay Hemp Company to learn about the production, distribution and profit margins of hemp products in India.
No, you're absolutely right when you say that hemp has actually been one of the biggest victims of a myopic mindset that's attached to it, right? In fact, the first thing when you ask someone what does the first thing that comes to your mind when you say the word cannabis, it's typically dope or weed and things like that. And at Bombay Hemp Company, since the last 7.5 years, in fact, the biggest battle that we've had to fight is converting the image of cannabis from dope to hope, right? And by that, what I essentially mean is we look at the other alternate applications of the crop which are not linked to its recreational side, mainly keeping in mind its industrial and medical uses. So hemp actually is touted to be $1 billion super crop that has over 25,000 proven uses. Yes, absolutely. In fact, if I were to stop, India is the primary market, the market that we really look at exploring. If I were to give you an understanding, 7.5 years ago, before we started out, when we conducted our first basic consumer-focused survey, we asked, what comes to your mind when we use the word hemp clothing, and the first thing that came to people's mind was a Bob Marley T-shirt, right? And from then to now, where people perceive hemp-based clothes as hemp as actually a material that is used to make clothes, it's seen a tremendous journey, right? After servicing, more than 15,000 plus clients across all of our verticals, and after touching upon different value-added consumer touch points in be it B2B textiles, B2C garments, accessories, or our foods and medicine space, hemp has come a long way.
I think it's important to understand India has a unique strategic market advantage. That is, today, if you go into a pind in Punjab, you'll see they use hemp seed oil to cure stretch marks. You go to a village in Uttarakhand, bhang ke beej or hemp seeds are used in chutneys and local delicacies. They use the hemp fiber in hilly states in India to make sweaters, chappals, everything for generations. So knowledge at a subsistence rural level has always been there. But being able to calculate that and take that into the urban market society and create that bridge of awareness is exactly the role Bohiko's been playing for the last 7.5 years as well. Where, as Yash correctly mentioned, we live in an age of hyper information where somebody sitting in a tier 2 or a tier 3 town in Chhattisgarh or Meghalaya actually has access to knowledge, knowing how hemp seed oil can help his skin during the cold climate and where to purchase it and how to do this and how it would help. So being able to plug in, I think it's sort of the perfect moment, and it's the moment was coming. It's an idea whose time has come for hemp and cannabis, particularly because of the fact that a lot of people with this, I would say, looking inwards, kind of self-reliance route, have realized that crops like hemp and cannabis were from our backyard. But today, the likes of body shops, the likes of multinational, multi-billion-dollar cannabis companies in the United States are claiming the brand heritage value of something like that. If India's ecosystem, industry, policy makers were to, and academics were to work together, we would actually effectively build a system, if not as good, if not better in the next decade or so. So it's still early days, as Yash correctly mentioned, but the market sentiment is extremely positive. Number one is to be able to provide a degree of credibility and be able to offset the risk in the mind of a regulator, whether it's an excise or revenue official in India or a narcotic official in India, or whether it's an official of a similar nature in Canada or any other country that has similar laws. That is being able to help them and prove to them this is being done in a safe design manner, and my produce, whether flower or leaf, is not going to the wrong hands. I'm able to account for this and count for this. That is the one key side of it. The second key side is when you're growing for flower and leaf, because you're focused more on chemical compounds within this, the level of agriculture practice needs to be a bit more precise in terms of getting a standard yield at the end of the day. And that's where glass houses and poly houses have been a very commonplace factor in developed countries as well as developing countries, focused around medical growth of cannabis. But if you look at the industrial growth, whether it's for stock or whether it's for seed, if you look at a country like China, or you look at a country like France for that matter, or Netherlands, almost all of it for fibers or seed is all completely outdoor based cultivation. So when that's the first question you need to be we need to be asking, that helps base the design on which it'll help us to understand how manpower is essentially employed. Because if we were to look at manpower, we look at it two different versions. There's a developed world version and a developing world version. In a developed world version, you have greater automation, lesser need for manpower, you have more process and value chain. Whereas in a developing country or developing world, hypothetically in this case India, there's a greater lead culturally and economically and operationally for incorporating labor, a manual labor in certain parts of the process as well. The key is being able to understand, say for example, we grow hemp for stock purposes or for seed purposes, and it's grown in a northern part of India. Because it's one of the first crops, there's always the risk that it attracts the wrong attention or the wrong scrutiny. So security, safekeeping and guarding needs to be done. Stocking, record checking needs to be done. You need the right laborers employed from local surroundings who understand, who are comfortable, be able to give the stakeholders of rural communities a buy-in into a longer term project, but not necessarily risk them in terms of how cultivation essentially would occur. The massive advantages in hemp or cannabis, less is more. That is, in 1 acre, you'd get between 5 and 10 tons of raw biomass for stock. You'd get 800 kgs to 1.2 tons of seed for consumption. I think it may be more. Yash may be able to correct me. You may be able to get about close to about 500 to 700 kgs of good quality flower or leaf, which is huge economic output. But the key behind linking the economic output is understanding the agronomic conditions to actually grow the plant vary from country to country. Every policy, every design has its own effect in implementation. So you have high speed growers like Canopy Growth and Aurora in Canada and the United States, their route of fast, high, accelerated today is not working. It's shown as unsustainable. But it was naturally a route we were never planning to take in India. That is, here it is important to work with your rural economy, employ the labor at the right places where what we like to refer to as invisible unemployment doesn't take place, wherein which you have 3 people doing the same job, thereby kind of limiting productivity and output, and being able to streamline this majorly right from collection of the seed, which happens for our food products or for the leaf products as well, or the collection of the leaf through our government sources, and be able to vertically integrate that into end-grade cultivation where you actually work with rural land bank holders, work with rural communities where they help you along the process to monitor, tender, and be able to ensure your output is at a max value. So it would entirely depend on 2 factors, as quickly summarized, on what you're growing for and where you're geographically located. These 2 key factors would help determine how manpower, what outfield or indoor cultivation, how the cost would work out, how your supply chain would work out, and most importantly, how would it help you in complete vertical integration.